Okay, here we are going to complete an activity which requires you create a table, and this table will require that you merge some cells together to create one big cell, and you're going to also put some information inside of the footer, and you're also going to insert a symbol. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started, and probably the best thing to do is, if you haven't already done so, navigate to the folder that's going to contain all of your work, as I have here on your OneDrive account. Remember, this folder should already be shared with me. And then when you're inside this folder, if you'll come up here and go to New, and then select Word Document. And after a couple seconds, this is going to open up, and because you are creating a new document that is in your OneDrive folder, you should be able to come up here under the document name, and we're going to rename this document. First thing we're going to do is save this document as Lawn Enforcement Project. And of course, here you see that this is going into the folder that's going to be shared with me. That way it's already in there. So then you can hit enter on your keyboard, and here you see that this file has automatically had its name changed. Now, if necessary, the next thing you might want to do is come over here to the far right, and on my screen you see the arrow for the switch ribbons. If you were to click on that, it's going to expand and show you more of the buttons that are on the ribbon. To make it easier to complete this document. So then the next thing you're going to do is we're going to change our default font from whatever it is right now. We're going to change it to Arial size 12. Arial size 12. And what this does is, because we are doing this before we even type the first word, everything in this document, in the body anyway, will be in Arial size 12. So if we want something to be a different font or a different size, we would have to change it individually. But going forward, everything's going to automatically be Arial 12. Now, the next thing you need to do is to change your top and bottom margins to 1/2 inch. So to change your margins, you'll go under Layout and click Margins. And you want to come down here and select Custom Margins, because what we want to change our margins to is not one of these predefined sets. So we'll select Custom Margins. And again, we want the top and bottom margins to both be 1/2 inch, which is 0.5, 0.5. So when we click OK, and then the next thing we want to do is we want to hit the Enter key a couple of times, and that is going to allow us to start creating our table, because later on we're going to actually input an image up here in the top part of this document where we just hit Enter. Now, this also reminds me of something else we need to do that's always helpful. If you go under your Home tab and click your Show and Hide button, this will show you all of your non-printing characters. So if you think about it, we just hit the Enter key 2 times. That is why you see 2 paragraph marks up above the insertion point. And of course, the insertion point is where our text is going to go as we type it. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to insert a table that has 3 columns and 22 rows. 3 columns and 22 rows. So what you have to do is you go under Insert and then Table. And because we are wanting 22 rows, we can't use the drag method. We have to come down here and click Insert Table. And this is where we change this to 3 columns and 22 rows. So you have to manually type that in, and then you click OK. And then you're going to see your table. So as of right now, what we're going to do is we want to merge the cells in the first row together. Because what we want to do is we want to be able to put a title for this table that we're going to create, and we want it to be in this first row. So if you click, hold, and drag with your mouse to select these cells, and then you can come up under your table layout tab, and under your table layout tab you've got this button that says merge cells. Now because we have selected those 3 cells, when we click merge cells, it's going to turn those 3 cells into one big cell. Okay. So then the next thing that we want to do with this is we want to take these first 2 columns, and actually we want to resize all of these columns. And what you need to do is to drag this border, this column border. If you take your mouse and move it so that you get your double I-beam with the arrows, that will enable you to resize these columns. So then you just want to click, hold, and drag this over here about so far. And then you want to do the same thing over here, so you've got maybe a ½ inch of space. And now these columns look like that. Okay. And in the desktop version, if we were to click open a desktop app, if you're doing this on Windows or on a Mac, you can make these be specifically ½ inch wide, but that is not a feature here on the online version, so you're just going to have to eyeball it. So the next thing that you're going to need to do is to start typing the text inside of this table. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by typing the text inventory equipment list. And then I want to come down here to this row. And by the way, you can go ahead and do this now if it'll make it look easier. I want to go ahead and select this text. And then I want to go under the Home tab. And I want to click my Align Center button because we want this text right here to be in the center here. And we're going to do some more formatting of this later on, but right now I just want to go ahead and get the text typed in. So here I want to type in tree pruners, and I could use the tab key on my keyboard, will automatically take me to the next cell, and I want to type in the word yes. And then I want to hit the tab key on my keyboard again, and I want to type in the word no. So then I want to hit the tab key again. I want to type in electric chainsaw, and I want to hit the tab key again, and I want to type in yes, hit the tab key again, type no. I want to hit the tab key on my keyboard again. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to pause this video, and I am going to type the rest of the text into the cells that are available to us still. And then when I come back on, I will leave the video paused for a little bit. You'll be able to see everything, and of course you can pause the video, and then you can type into your document what you see paused on the screen from my video. Okay, so based upon the instructions that you've been given so far, your document should look a little something like this. And you can already tell that there are some things about this particular document that needs to be fixed. And we will talk about that here shortly. All right, so first of all, first thing that I've noticed about this, and again, this is the kind of thing that, you know, if I make a little error as I'm making these videos, I don't mind letting you see how to fix these errors. So first thing I noticed here is that it says folding pruning saw with replacement blades, and then down here it says all-purpose sharper. Okay, this should be, all of this text down here really should be moved down one row. So an easy way to fix this is you can select this text right here, and you select it, and then you can click, hold, and drag the selection. Now, again, this is one of the things that as I do it, some things that I'm used to being able to do on the desktop version of Word, I apparently cannot do here on the online version. So my first thought was to click, hold, and to drag this down, and it's looking like that won't work. So another thing that I can try to do to see if this will work is, instead of trying to drag it down, I can just cut it. So I'm going to come up here under the clipboard and hit my cut button, or I can hit Control X on my keyboard, and then I can paste it one row below. Now I don't have a, here's my paste button, so I can click that, and it tells me that my browser can't access the clipboard, so I use these shortcuts. So my keyboard shortcut to paste is Control V, which that's typically the way I would do it. So I would hit Control V, and it looks like the way that this did it was basically it made it a table within a table. So what I want to do is, one more time, I'm going to just undo this. And this is one of the, if you undo what I just did, this is one of the things that, again, you see where the difference of the desktop version is so much better. What I want to do is I'm just going to have to cut and paste these individually and see how this works. And it did put in an extra space in there, so I'm going to have to also go back and by the way, the extra space, it kind of depends upon how you select this. You know, again, this is one of the differences in the online version and the desktop version. So what I'm doing, I'm hitting Control X on my keyboard to cut, and then I'm hitting Control V on my keyboard to paste, and then I'm having to go back and delete that extra space that's put in there. And again, that's perfectly okay to do it like that. And again, these are all skills that need to be learned. And again, if you feel free, you could fast forward through this part of the video once you kind of get the hang of what you should be doing. And of course, this is the mistake that I made anyway. And again, you know, this is, I don't mind you seeing me making little errors like this, because when you make these little errors, you're going to need to figure out how to fix them. So again, I'm just hitting Control X to cut and Control V to paste, and then I'm getting rid of the extra spaces that's in there. And again, reminder, the desktop version of this, it's much easier to fix this little issue. And then here, all you got to do, you cut it, and then you paste it there, and now we're back to where we should be, except that we also need to come down here and type in yes and no. And now this is the way it should look based upon the instructions that were given so far. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do with this is we want to go, and this text that's in the first row of the table, we can select that, and we want to make this text size 14. And we want to make it bold, which here's the bold button. And the text again is supposed to be Arial. Now let me show you something. If you click here, notice how my text is Calibri, and if I click here, the text is Calibri. But if I were to click up here, now it's still Calibri, which, if you'll remember, one of the first things that I did was I changed my font to Arial. So for some reason this went back to Calibri, and that's okay. So what you need to do is on your keyboard you hit Control A to select all. Now when I say hit Control A to select all, it kind of depends upon where your insertion point is at when you hit Control A. So now I want to come up here and change this to Calibri. I'm sorry, change it to Arial. And notice I'm getting, now it changed it to Arial. And now what I need to do is to change my font to size 11. Now here's the thing, when I change my font to size 11, it's going to take that first line that we just made size 14, it's going to make it size 11 too because we selected all. And it's okay, because then when you do that, you can go back and then you can manually change this first line back to 14. And again, these are little things that you're just going to have to learn to deal with when you're editing your documents. And again, the desktop version is a whole lot easier to make these changes with than this is. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we want to take this text that's in all of these yeses and nos, and we want to select these cells, and we want to align all of these in the center. So once you select these with your mouse by clicking, holding, and dragging, then you go under your Home tab and click under your paragraph group, you click your Align Center button, and you see how all of those moved over just a little bit. Okay. So now the next thing we want to do with this is we want to come down here and we want to merge these 9 cells together to make one big cell, so that you will have room to, because this document is supposed to be a form that requires a signature or at least an additional explanation. So you want to take these cells and select them and merge them together as well. So again, you'll come under the Table Layout tab and you'll click Merge Cells. And now you see that this is one really big cell. So now down here you want to come and you want to type the phrase explanation of equipment condition. Okay, followed by a comma. And basically what this is going to be is this is going to be an area where if this were a form for this company, what you could do is it'll give you room to actually handwrite something in there that might need to be in there. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to come down here below this table. Now, by the way, right now my insertion point is inside this table, and because the insertion point is inside the table, we have the table design and table layout tools available to us. When we click outside of the table, these 2 tabs are going to go away. As I just clicked outside the table, and those 2 tabs went away. So the next thing I want to do is I want to hit enter several times until I am down at the bottom of this page. And we're going to make some further changes to this here shortly. And this is kind of what you just have to do when you're creating a document. You just have to massage the document a little bit, because again, one of the main things you need to remember here is to get this to all fit on one page. So what you need to do now is come down here to the very last line on this page, and we are going to insert a line for the driver to put his or her signature on. So we want to type in the words driver's name followed by colon, and I want to put in some blanks. So I'm just holding down the Shift key and hitting the underscore key, which is directly to the right of the 0 key on your keyboard. And I'm just going to eyeball it and make it long enough for somebody to write their name on there. And then I'm going to put in a space, and then I'm going to type truck number And I'm going to do the same thing. Now the truck number probably won't be as long as the driver's name, so it's going to be shorter. And then I want to hit space again, and I want to type in date of use and put in a colon. And again, I want to put in some blank lines. And I want to take this one out to the right margin. And as I just did, when I hit this, it forced that text to go down to the next line, which I didn't necessarily want. So what I want to do is to hit the backspace key, and this is where I can start playing with this a little bit. You know, if I think this line needs to be a little bit longer, I can make this line a little bit shorter, and then I could come out here and then make this line a little bit longer. But again, remember, you've got to fit all this on one page, and that's going to be very important. So now this is what we've got so far. And the next thing that we're going to do is we want to come down here to the footer. Now, as previously learned, anything you put in the footer will appear at the foot or the bottom of every page of a document. Anything we put in the footer on page 1 of a document, if this happens to be a 20-page document, the same thing will go in the footer on all 20 of those pages. Now, this document is only going to be 1 page long, but we still want to learn to use the footer. So I want to click footer. And then down here is the footer. By the way, up here is the header. And what we want to do is we want to come down here, and the first thing we want to do in the footer is we want to try to put in a symbol, a copyright symbol. Now, this is one of those things where I'm going to try to do it the way I would normally do it on the desktop version. If it doesn't work, we'll go back and we'll have to do it another method using the online version. But a copyright symbol is a left parenthesis followed by the letter C followed by a right parenthesis. And when I hit space bar, hopefully you see how that symbol changed to a letter C inside an entire circle. And that is your copyright symbol. That means that this document has been, or this name, as in this case, we're going to type in the name law enforcement. That is a supposedly copyrighted name with the United States Copyright Office. So what we're going to do is I'm going to type in here law enforcement. And over here in the center footer, we'll type in the words inventory. List. And by the way, you notice that down here in the footer, the first cell, that text is aligned at the left. In the center footer, anything you type in here is aligned at the center, and then the right footer, anything you type in is going to be inserted, it's going to be aligned at the right. Now, the next thing that I want to do, and again, the desktop version will do what I want to do. I don't know if the online version will do it, but we're going to find out. We want to see if we can insert a date that will always update on this document. So I want to click the insert button, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think that the online version is going to be able to do this. And again, it's okay to look and find out, and that's part of the good things about, you know, this particular class is you can find out some of the differences between the online version and the desktop version. And I am not seeing a command that will put in an automatically updated date. And I'm not going to try to make it happen. So just come down here and you can type in the date that you are completing this activity, and I'm doing this on September the 2nd of 2020, so I can just put in 9/2/2020. But on the desktop version, there is a command that you can go and click insert, and it'll say date and time, and you could select the date, and then there will be a button that says automatically update. And what that'll do is anytime you open this file in the future, whatever date that you open that file on, that day's date will appear down here in the footer. Now you can't do this here on the online version, and that's okay. And while I've got this open, I just want to see what this is right here. If I click options, Okay, and again, I typically don't use the desktop or the online version of this because I do have the desktop version. But remember, this class, at least right now, is being geared toward the online version. So there's I don't see. I thought I might see something in here about the date where it would let me put in the date automatically, but it won't. So I want to come up and hit the escape key on the keyboard. And again, this is down here in the footer. And the thing about the footer is you cannot see what's in the footer in the view that we currently have. If I go to view, and again, I could go to view and click header and footer, and it'll take me back to, right where I was. And I think I can click reading view, and it might open this up and show me what this would look like if I were to print it out on paper, and it actually does. So you see what it looks like down here, and so that is what you would, when I look at this to grade it, I will be going in under this reading view just to make sure that you put the footer in, or I'll just click the footer button. So I'm going to come back and click edit document, and I want to edit it right here in the browser. For those of you that you may want to, if you've got it on your computer, you can open a desktop app, but again, this is geared strictly toward this. All right, so then the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to double space all of this text that's in here. So what we're going to do is I want to select this entire table. With my mouse, I want to click, hold, and drag. And I want to change my line spacing to double. So I have to go under the paragraph group. And here is my line spacing button. I want to change my line spacing to 2 instead of 1. I also want to, again, because earlier when I went and looked at this in reading view, it turned off my show and hide features. On the desktop version, the show and hide is typically on or off until you turn it on or off. So I want to come up here and just take a look at this. And as of right now, this document is actually going to go over to a second page. And that's what this line right here indicates, is that this is on a second page. So what we're going to need to do is to delete some of these extra paragraph marks. And this is what I was talking about, massaging the document to make everything fit. You definitely want this to be on one page. And there's some other things that we can do with this. And as I look at this, and again, I'm trying to make it so that there's a little bit more space here. Double spacing works fine. If I click footer, notice I still have the footer, which that is going to be in that bottom 1/2 inch. When we changed our page margins earlier, so I want to click off that and go back. And I've got enough space here, but we need to type a little bit more info up here. And again, remember what I said, we're going to have to kind of massage this document a little bit. And earlier I told you to do one thing, and then I may tell you to do something else a little bit later. That's what is happening right now. So up here, at the very beginning, we hit the paragraph mark. We hit the enter key twice. So what we want to do is on this in front of this second paragraph mark that's up here on top of the table, we want to type in another sentence. We want to type in directions. Use the inventory checklist to circle yes or no if equipment is broken or missing. So the whole idea is we're going to take this document and we're going to print it out, and someone who is in charge of doing inventory for this lawn care business, they want to just be able to go down and circle yes or no to indicate that whether the whether or not the equipment is accounted for and is it in working condition. So as of right now, this all fits on one page, but we still must also put an image on this document. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to go get the logo, and if you look in the assignment page in Canvas, you're going to find the logo there for you. Now, this is one of those things that I'm going to show you that I just cannot duplicate for those of you that are using a Chromebook or if you are using a Macintosh, because what we're going to do is we're going to insert an image up here on this top line, the law enforcement logo, and we're going to insert the image. And because I don't have a Chromebook and I don't have a Mac, what I'm going to demonstrate is actually on a computer using Windows 10, and I just cannot duplicate your specific device. So what you're going to have to do to get this image in is you're going to have to just figure out how to make it work on your device. But what I want to do now is the image itself is going to be in Canvas, so you're going to need to download that image to your device. Now I've already done it on mine. And so what I want to do is I want to go under and click Insert. Then I want to click Picture. And it's going to ask me to choose a file. Then I got to find where this file is located. So I'm going to navigate to the folder where I have the image stored. And again, this is where it's going to be different for you if you're on a Mac or on a Chromebook. But I'm navigating to the folder, and then there's the image that we want to insert, called Law Enforcement, and I want to click Open. Now again, if you're on a Mac or on a Chromebook, it may be slightly different, but I want to click Insert. Now here's the thing, this image is obviously very big and we want it to be about 1 inch by 1 inch. Now in the aspect size over here, when you click on an image, you see over here in the Picture tab, you've got the image size. What we want to do is we want to make it so that it's about 1 inch by 1 inch. And when I say about, I mean about. So what we want to do is we actually notice that the width of this image is automatically 5 inches. Well, we want to make it 1 inch. But what we want to do is we want the height to also be reduced proportionally. Basically, we want it to be 1/5 of this. Now, rather than doing the math, if you come up here and click where it says Lock Aspect Ratio, and then down here where it says width, if you take that 5 and replace it with a 1, notice what happens to the height when I hit Enter on the keyboard. Notice how the height of this image automatically changes from 4.66 to 0.93. So that is what is meant by locking the aspect ratio. It resizes it proportionally. So then the next thing that I would want to do is I would want to go under the Home tab, and I want to click this Align Center button to make this image the right size, or the approximate right size. And then finally, we want to come down here again and we want to massage this document a little bit again and make it so that this document fits on one page. Now down here you see where it's page 1 of 2. This document is on a second page. So we've got this last little bit down here. So what we want to do is, and there's a couple of different ways that you can massage this document, if you will. All of this text here, remember we changed the line spacing to double. And at the original document that I'm looking at, it doesn't look like it's quite double. So what I want to do is I want to select all of the text that's inside of this table with my mouse. And I want to make sure I don't get anything outside of this table. So what I want to do is I want to come up here under my line spacing button again, and I want to change this. Let's just make it 1.5. And instead of it being double spaced, it'll be about 1.5. And it kind of looks like I still have enough room if I wanted to come over here and circle yes or no. My image is still about 1 inch high. If I click on it again, go under the Picture tab, again it's still 1 inch wide and slightly shorter than 1 inch. Everything fits on here. I've got enough space. Everything's aligned. I got enough room right here if I needed to write in an explanation. But now the one thing that I notice about this document is I don't really have enough room down here to write in the driver's name. So what I want to do is come down here and I just want to click in front of driver's name and I want to hit enter a couple times. And I think I'm going to stop right there. And remember, you've still got information that is in the footer down here. And again, I scroll up and I look at this, and everything looks pretty good, except the one little thing that kind of I'm noticing right now is it looks like my left margin is shorter than my right margin. So let me go back and make sure I even set my margins correctly to start. So I'll go under the Layout tab and I click Margins and I go back to Custom Margins. And you know what? Part of the reason I've had this issue from the very beginning is because I didn't pay close attention to my margins. My top and bottom margins were supposed to be 1/2 inch each, where what I did was I made them my top and my left. So again, I want to go back and fix this and make my top and bottom 1/2 inch each. And then I want to make this left margin 1 inch. And we'll click OK. And you see how this changes. And of course, that changes everything else that's down here. So now this line down here, because of the shorter left margin, this line probably needs to be a little bit shorter. And so I just want to make the driver's name line a little bit shorter. I want to take off some of those underscores. And, you know, when I do all that, then I'm not quite sure if this is really enough room for somebody to write their name in. But, you know, they can always write it in up here if they had to. It's not a big deal. But overall, this document, it looks pretty good. Everything fits on one page. I've got enough room to do what I need to do on here. And if I was the person in charge of creating the document for law enforcement, then I would be pretty happy with myself. Now, just as I say that, I noticed one more thing. Now my left margin looks like it's too big. It's a lot bigger than my right margin. So let me check that one more time. So again, I'm going to go under Layout, Margins, Custom Margins. Top and bottom is 1 inch. Left and right are 1 inch. So that's correct. And it may be that the this table, I could drag it over, and maybe I need to resize these columns a little bit. So what I can do is drag this back to the left a little bit. And then I can drag this back to the left a little bit. And then I can drag this back to the left a little bit. And that's making it look better. And again, you see what's happening here? And, you know, I can keep massaging this a little bit more to make it look like I've got 1 inch of space over here on the right compared to the left. Now again, on the desktop version, you would be able to go and click view, and then you'd have a ruler up here and you would be able to see exactly how long these are, how much space I've got, how wide these margins are. So I just want to keep massaging it a little bit until these are about the same size. And you know, now they're about the same size, and I still have enough room to circle yes or no. And now this looks, to me, it looks a whole lot better. And now I'm officially happy with this activity. So that is it for this activity. And I know this is a rather long activity complete, but again, I do want you to see what you need to do when you make a mistake or when you do something that you're not quite sure of how to do it. And you also need to learn that you can't always do something right the first time. Sometimes it's a lot of trial and error, and you heard me use the term massaging. You have to massage this document to get everything to fit, so that's what we did here. So if you have any questions about this, please feel free to ask me.